I have just launched a mastermind called the Circle of Influence, where I'll be taking you under my wing to show you how to build a platform online that generates an income for you so that you can have more freedom in your life. I'm also going to show you how to become a powerful influencer online so that you can score interviews and so you can get exposure on major publications and platforms. And I'm going to even show you how to build these platforms yourself, such as a website, a podcast, a YouTube channel, and a social media following so that you can get your message out there to millions. I'm also going to show you how to network with other incredible leaders online so that you can interview them and so that you can collaborate with them and really show you how to refine your story so that you can share it in an unforgettable way to score more interviews, to score book deals, and to gain more speaking opportunities so that you can become a powerhouse leader. Now, if this speaks to you, make sure you head over to iamjoelbrown.com/apply and get in before I close my doors on this live, interactive, exclusive opportunity where I'm going to go deep with you and with the community of Circle of Influence Game Changers. Don't miss this. Now let's get into this interview. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Addicted to Success podcast. I'm your host, Joel Brown, and I'm here today with Shanda Sumpter, who runs HeartCore business. She also runs an incredible event in the US and California called Zone Event. And I love the content that Shanda puts out. If you haven't seen her content yet, make sure you follow her on Instagram. She's a kick-ass coach, a kick-ass speaker, and she is not here to play games. She's all about business and ready to lead in an amazing way. So, Shanda, I'm excited for you to share your gems of wisdom today. Thank you for jumping on the Addicted to Success podcast.
I love the name. It feels like home. Addicted to success my whole life.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, we get like a couple different, reactions to it. Some people say, "Oh, I love it," and others say, "That's not good to be addicted to success." And my answer is, well, what's your definition of success, right?
Yeah.
What's yours, Shanda? Break it down for us.
Yeah. So it actually is connected to how I've even ever chosen any mentor in my life. I never choose a mentor based on how much money they make. I choose a mentor based on how much money they make and the lifestyle they live. So for instance, when I wanted to get married and have children, I literally picked a mentor and I was still years away from it, but it was becoming an interest of mine. I picked a mentor that was married, had kids, and was really doing it well. And right. So it's like, I really believe, we were actually just talking about this. I really believe that the environment in which you spend your time in, you become more like it. And I think people can experience that. Sometimes people will hire me and they'll start to sound like me. And I'm like, really, like, it's an interesting game because you start to, you know what I mean? You start to mold and become the personality and the language. That's why they call it tribal, of the tribe that you hang out with. So my definition of success today is having a successful marriage, which I'm always working on. I'm not standing here today to say that my marriage is perfect at all. In fact, I did a live the other day where I started to cry online because I went to my bathroom in the morning and I looked at my husband and he goes, "How you doing?" I was like, "Relationships are hard." And I just kind of broke. And he looked at me and he was hugging me. And he was like, he just loved the vulnerability. And so much so that my son ran up to us and was hugging us too. And he's only 4 because the love was so strong between him and I in that moment that our son had to be a part of it and stuck to us. And I was just thinking oh my gosh, we try so hard to be successful, but yet it's who we're being in the moment that causes us to be successful. You know what I mean? You look at Hillsong Church, Carl Lentz, and you've got 35 employees and 2,000 volunteers that show up weekly to service 25,000 people or 20,000 people, however many it is, over the services over every weekend. Or you look at what Oprah's done or these are strong leaders. So when I look at success, I'm looking for a strong leader. I'm looking for someone who's kind to the people around them. I'm looking for someone that motivates people. I'm looking for someone that has a family. I'm really interested in working with people who have a family. I'm working with a mentor right now that, does over $100 million a year on email marketing. Well, that's because I'm really into email marketing. I mean, I do a lot on social media, but like I just talked to one of the largest social media marketers right now on the platforms, and she said, I feel safe because I have an email list. You know, I pulled everything off social, and I'm not in the algorithms of 35% of my people are going to see my Instagram post, right? Like, you got to watch the conversation. So kind of going in different directions, but like I'm looking for somebody who's getting the results that I want, but also has the lifestyle that I want.
I like that. So aligning yourself with people that are aligned with your values and also your vision of your future of what you're looking at creating.
Yeah,
yes.
like my mentor right now is literally Christian, doing $100 million a year in email marketing, has a wife and kids, and super humble. About 2 years ago, like his marriage almost fell apart. Like that's vulnerability, that's humility, that's like you like that's what I'm interested. That's the type of leader I'm interested in being. I'm not interested in being the leader that like has it all together, because I just think it's not true.
Right. So keeping it real, not keeping it fluffy.
Yeah.
I like that. Hell yeah. Good stuff. Beautiful. Okay. So the content that I see you putting out is heavily based around transformational work, coaching, like really going into the mind, right? And managing your mind in a powerful way. What I feel like a lot of people struggle with nowadays is this whole idea of making money. Mm-hmm. And I think your mindset has a lot to do with it, right? And so could you break it down for us on this podcast? What are some steps people can take if they're struggling with this money mindset? Because you were just saying words like 100 million before and, you know, mailing lit, all these things. So like a lot of people want to be able to get the results, but they're trying to get their head around this whole money conversation.
So, okay. So this is an interesting conversation, because what I don't want to do is have a mindset conversation, because of the fact that I think that people underrate it. Right. They underrate it. So I don't know. I don't know if people know like Bedros from Fit Body Boot Camp, or you know, Sarah Blakely from Spanx, who I was text messaging with this morning. You know, like it's like when I ask Sarah, like, how did you find, you know, when I was hiring a COO for my company, how did you find your COO? I mean, her answer was not like, follow this formula, hire this headhunter, and you get this. You know what it was? It was mindset. When I asked Bedros, like, when I'm like, Bedros, like, this is what I'm doing in some of our masterminds, and they're 3 days long. He's like, how do you teach for 3 days? Like, I don't even have enough content to teach for 3 days. Not that he couldn't speak for 3 days. He could. But like, we're not trying to fill up space, you know, like, it's like, get to the point. Really, all of us have a couple different avenues, buckets that we're working on, and we've been working on them for a long time, and we're intimate. We're intimate with whatever marketing campaigns we're doing, which means that we go past the moment of boredom and we keep doing the thing over and over and over again. And we make the money because we're working the same thing over and over and over again. So I would love to talk just about mindset, because it's 85, if not 90% of everything is your hustle. Yeah. I mean, it is your hustle. It just is. But it's like, it's also realizing that you, like, I think passion is overrated. Here's why. I think you should do something you love. I do something I could coach. I could talk on podcasts all day long. I could coach all day long. If you put me back to back to stages, I would not be worn out by the end of the day. I love it. So, but when I look at the trajectory of all my business, or all the years that I've been building, I've been selling the same thing, email marketing, forever. Like, I remember at one point going, if I have to teach somebody how to build a buyer's list for one more month, I'm gonna like slip my wrists. Like, this is horrible. I'm so bored of the same. I should be able to automate this. I should be able to Q&A this, like put some like best practice, you know, PDF together. And this is the challenge that information marketers fall into these days, because I think there's a lot of people who have figured out how to sell. They have not figured out how to grow business. And then the algorithms change online and they find themselves out of business because you have a lot of really shiny object influencers out there that are not making the type of money that people think they are. I just heard of somebody like in a 7-figure club, and I'm like, that person does not make 7 figures. I know they don't because I've coached them, you know, but yet even the coach thinks they make 7 figures because they're in that group. But meanwhile, like, I mean, last year they were going, like, they were just like, I think I'm gonna have to go get a job, you know, but the Instagram page and the Facebook page looks like there's 100,000 plus followers, and, you know, and it's like, like, this isn't the gig. So get bored. Like, get so good at selling one thing that you get really bored about it. And then, like, get past that mark and start getting intimate with it. Because if you can get enough volume around that one thing, trust me, you're not going to get bored anymore, because now you got to figure out how to hire a team. Now you got to figure out, after a couple $1 million, really, when you, like, literally after $1 million, you have to start understanding a little bit how to run a business. You can not be an entrepreneur and make your way up to $3 million a year. I'm really like, which is great, because the internet's so easy to make it happen if you just sell one thing. The problem most people are having is they're trying to sell too many things that they're inspired about. And I just think that's a really selfish game. It's super selfish. And so the generous win. The generous always win. How generous are you with the people around you? How much do you pay attention when people talk? You know, do you give as much credibility and love to the homeless person as to the guru that maybe you're a little bit nervous about sitting next to at a table or going up to at an event when they're standing off the stage now? Like, where are you putting your idols? Are they in God? Are they in people? You know, when you start to really figure out who you are, and you get a baseline, which is back to your mindset conversation, when you can manage your mind, that's something we say in our community all the time, manage your mind, then you realize, like, look, I don't know how much money you want to make, but you can go up to 3 million without knowing how to build a business, really. Because you only need a few million, you only need like a few people that work for your company to go up to that. You don't have to understand entrepreneurship till you start getting to 5 million and above. Now you need to understand entrepreneurship, and the game changes after that.
Wow, so many bombs were dropped in that answer there. Wow. All right, let's unpack this. I like this. So I love that you said you got to be generous, right? You got to lead with generosity. I was reading a book the other day called Top of Mind. It's a marketing book. And there's a line in there where the guy says, so many people, what they'll do is, in order to be able to sell, to kind of outrank their competition, they'll cheapen their services. So they'll drop the price. And he says, you either cheapen yourself or you increase your likability. But then how do you increase your likability? It's by shifting the spotlight to others. It's about listening more than you talk. It's about practicing giving before, like, expecting to receive. And I love that you said lead with generosity. It's so key. So
the way that you practically do that, we just did before I jumped on here. We were just getting off a call as we restructured the same program that we've been selling for 7 years. We surveyed all of our clients again, and instead of, I'll give you a real moment. After our clients go through a first-year program, they go into a second-year program that they can stay in for really an unlimited amount of time. And that second-year program, or let's call it second level versus second year, we kept hearing feedback from our clients that it wasn't structured enough. And I'm sitting there going, they're paying not even close to it. Like, I'm paying $50,000, $25,000, $100,000, and there's nobody there to help me implement. Right? It's just here's the masterminds, here's some really great training, and I have to figure out what to do with that and what I'm going to take, what I'm not going to take, and apply it and get the results. And I've never loved the model, but I thought, you know, as I'm figuring it out, I'll give the mastermind model. I'll give them performance-based coaches, which are like, you know, coaches to hold them accountable. And, you know, and I'll give this 90-minute cash call, teaching them a cash strategy every month. They may or may not be able to use all 12 in a year, but like, that's like a lot of stuff. I give you 12 specific strategies to create cash now, 30 minutes a month with a performance-based coach, which is a leadership coach to keep you accountable, you know, and 3 masterminds in a year, and tickets to my zone event. And it's a lot for like under 20,000. Okay. We're talking $15,000 a year. And I'm sitting there going, I don't get it. Like, why are they complaining? And what it dawned on me is that, first of all, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter how like inexpensive, expensive, whatever it is, people pay for value. And they stay in our communities for a long period of time, but they still had a complaint, which means that they love me and they love the community, but they're so much so that they're struggling to figure out how to create it, like how to create the results. But like they had they wanted small groups of accountability. They wanted time to ask questions. And I'm like, okay, so like book a VIP day. I mean, that's what I've always had to do. But it's irrelevant because the audience is saying what they're saying. It's irrelevant what you think is the right thing or that they should be appreciative or how much you're giving. It's irrelevant. In any relationship, what's completely relevant and creates value is you listening, what do they want, and finding a way to deliver it. And so now we have success clubs, and they're based on what income bracket they're at. And we have trainer coaches tracking with them all year in small groups next year in these success groups. So now and no price increase, no anything. I'm shelling out more cash to do it. But what I'm doing is I'm taking my second level program and I'm finding a way to make it as good as the first level so that people not only rave about it, but I have them for more than three years afterwards. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's like, and they're happy, not because they're like, oh, I love Shanda, she's amazing, but I felt like I need to go over here. But it was more like, oh my gosh, like I've never been more supported in my life. I have a strong female-based audience. And so they have to feel safe. And so I'm listening. I'm listening to what it is that they're saying. So your book that you're reading is intelligent. And when people create another product based out of their inspiration, you're looking to be broke. You got to ask people what it is that they want. Just create what they want. It's so easy to make money. Create what people want.
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs or people that are aspiring to be leaders that haven't reached that level of maturity yet, they still carry that pride. It's like that BS pride of like, I don't want to ask my people because it may look like I'm not a good enough leader. You're going to have to at some point, right? And I know it because honestly, I've done that myself where I've held off a bit too long without, asking my audience or polling my audience and finding out what they actually,
That's actually a really great point to bring up, Joel, because so everybody just let walk through that fear. Joel felt it. I felt it. I mean, I remember feeling like when they would give me feedback that somehow it meant like it's almost like a defensive comes up in you. Like they should just appreciate this. I pay more. Like that's what would come up in me. I pay more for less, but at the end of the day, if you want to be an entrepreneur, especially if you look at products like you could be in a coaching company and learn a lot about, Spanx, Sarah's done a great job pulling her audience all the time. And that's why she keeps creating things that sell out, but it's all under the same initial underwear that holds a woman in. Like everything, her leggings, her tights, her shirts, everything is designed around the same core competency of empowering a woman's body, And so what I see is like, I mean, here, I don't know if I don't want to go off on a tangent, Joel, but like I sell one thing really well. There's 2 levels to it. And I decided that they needed speaking training. So I brought in speaking training and started building on another division with another trainer. And although we made a lot of money on the front end, I lost $1.6 million in 3 months because I could have taken that same, we already know our numbers. I could have taken that same energy and went even more deep, intimate with my marketing, which would have meant more volume. So instead of going more volume, it was easier for me to go over here and offer this next shiny object thing. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus it would have been smarter for me to pay the trainer even $20,000 to come in and train a workshop for my clients, even if it was like 20 grand, because the overall results that our clients would get on a 2-day workshop, you get what I'm saying? Like, yes, the trainer would make more selling one-on-one in their groups, the 5,000 or 7,000, but as if any trainer is going to turn down 20 grand to come for 2 days and teach a workshop for your people.
Yeah, true. And the thing that I've noticed too with this whole online space, because I've been in the game for more than 10 years now. And back in the day, you could get away with just like, hey, here's a high volume of content, sit down and watch it and take note. You can't do that anymore. People want live interaction. People want to be held accountable because they're distracted now more than ever. Yeah. And there was a book, Cal Newport, Deep Work. And he says in there that focus is going to be your number one most important commodity in the next day and age, where we're at now. This was written a few years ago. And it's so true. We're so distracted by social media, and we're so distracted by all the shiny objects and everything coming in. There's all these new trends coming in all the time into business. It's going back to the principles, going back to the simplified things that are actually working, and just really, doubling down and going, okay, what do people actually want? They want human connection. Yeah. That'll never go away. That's why your events do really well. People want to come to that and interact with each other, and they want to be held accountable because they're just so scattermined. So right now,
It's funny. I'm about to do more personal development work. And literally the number one thing I want to work on is my focus. So, and I think I want to share that is because this place of humility, like I built an 8-figure company. I probably could have already had it at 9 figures. Actually, I know I could have had it at 9 figures. And I think I've been fairly focused, but I know behind closed doors that I could be more focused. Like, I know that. And as much as I said the other day, I was like, Instagram doesn't need another pretty picture, and the perfect, rah, work your ass off. Like, yeah, we all know that part. But the truth is who's talking about the parts of us that are broken? Like the parts of us that know that we didn't utilize today and didn't show up the way we could have, and have a broken heart, or, had an argument with someone, or wasn't as productive or we're afraid to hire somebody because it's a lot of money, but yet we're out there still saying, get resourceful, do this, do that. But yet at the end of the day, you're facing your own demons and going, wow, I can't even take my own advice. I know I'll figure it out. I know I always get to the other side, but there's all that guck in between that is just humanness. And, being afraid to raise your prices because you don't think people are going to pay it is real. Once you sell one, that's gone. You don't have that fear anymore. Being afraid to survey your audience and ask how you can get better. That's practice and you getting decent at your leadership and taking feedback and being more committed to being the best than you are to your ego. Being okay with the fact that, you're not as productive as you could be. These are all the real pieces of the game. And I think people like to pretend like you got to be productive 7 days a week. And it's just not true.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that on so many levels. A couple of weeks ago, I did this needs assessment because, we have values. Values are easy to choose because it's what you spend most of your time on, most of your money on, what you love speaking to other people about. We can identify them really quickly. But I did a list of, it was 150 needs, and I had to choose 7, and then I had to narrow it down to 3. And it creates this vision triangle where at the top, you've got the number one priority need, and then you've got, on the bottom left and bottom right, you've got the other 2. Self-love was at the top for me. This is the first time I ever identified that I actually need to do this because I felt like I was giving myself love, but I was burning myself out and not paying attention to other areas of my life, right? Mm-hmm. And then in the bottom left and the right was what you said, focus, because I know how powerful I am when I focus. Mm-hmm. And then creativity on the right, because I can be so much in the masculine that I need to come into that feminine at times and sit and let my mind go where it needs to go and create and write and flex that, beautiful gift that we're being given by God. And I think it's really important for everyone to really identify what's your needs. What do you need right now? Because we can keep forging on and building the business and, blowing things up. But like you said before, when we were talking before this call, you said priorities are really important, like making decisions. Once you make the decision, you call it into your space.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of us aren't making the right things priority because we're distracted by the other things.
Yeah. So to circle back around, when Sarah Blakely found her COO, she literally made a decision. I need a COO. and she met that COO in the hosiery department at Neiman Marcus, right? I think that's what she said, Neiman Marcus. And I'm like, how can I replicate that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, thanks.
It's coming.
I can't replicate that. But it was shortly after that I met my COO. And it came through somebody and it came through Evan Pagan's company, right? So
Right.
it's like, you know, it's like making these decisions, and we don't make these decisions at all. And I think I was paying attention when you said, like, we're so distracted. That's why focus is such a core competency that we need to develop right now. And it's so right. Now we got TikTok out, and you got like, there's just like, and it's probably not going away based on who it's backed by, you know, like, so, you know, there's these interesting platforms that are important to pay attention to, whether or not we want to or we don't. I mean, when does it end?
Yeah. I don't, like I said, I've been in the game for more than a decade now, and I've seen so many platforms come into play. But what I love that you said before, as I know we're going to unpack the first thing that you said or the second answer, there was so much in that. You shared a quote recently. It says, if you're not willing to fail, you're not willing to succeed either. Take the leap and don't look back. And I love that. It's such a powerful reminder. And you got me thinking when you were talking about like the influencers that come in, right? And they come and go on platforms. They're like really taking heed and the advantage of the opportunity of the window that they have. But those type of people often I find, because I coach a lot of people that come in, and then my goal is grab an influencer, turn them into a leader. This is a difference, right?
That's so good.
And so they're afraid to fail. That's the problem, is that they're afraid to fail. Whereas I feel like leaders are like, they look beyond that. And if they fail, they're like, there's a lesson in this. I'm going to keep forging forward. And I feel like with all these platforms that keep coming out and changing, it's really just a filtration system to see how bad people really want it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. So I think when you're talking about mindset, I think a lot of people, mindset is a piece of leadership. And the game, if you want to succeed, is literally study leadership. That's it. That is it. That is the whole.
But that feels like, think about this though, because I used to feel like this when I was younger. It feels so unsexy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So does like, Organifi in one main funnel. You know what I mean? Or, like my point of saying that, if somebody doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's like, people basically find like these really strong, a really strong marketing campaign. There's a guy that I met that's doing, I know these are not big numbers, but it's just the circle I'm playing in now. And, when I started, I just wanted to make $5,000 a month. Okay. So nobody would have guessed it would have gotten to where I am today. And now, in my mastermind, it's like there's people that are spending $100,000 a day on marketing, on just Facebook marketing a day. And it's one funnel that they do over and over and over again with multiple different products. One funnel, right? And so what I think people don't realize is, they're just distracted on trying to do too many things. Truthfully, like they're just distracted on doing way too many things. So pick a platform you want to get really strong on. I did that with Facebook first, and we have a really strong audience. It's not 1 million, but it's 200,000, and it's a strong foundation. And when I do a live, there's a couple hundred or 300 or whatever, like real comments, on the bottom of them, not people pretending to be my friend and commenting to drive anything up, like real stuff. And then now I'm starting to focus on Instagram, but I'm like, the message is the core, same message everywhere. And it's leadership. And I just have to learn how to develop my leadership on different platforms and the same message, but the way I lead on Instagram is a little different than the way I lead on Facebook, because the platform requires a different style leader. No different than if I went onto the stage at a college and I just spoke for some college kids in an entrepreneurship program a couple days ago. That was really cool. If you've never done that, that is really a cool experience.
Not yet. I'm looking forward to it.
So cool. It's so cool. But like, I have to change the way I lead because I'm leading a different group. So the whole game of tweaking is actually in your leadership. If you think about, like, even if I threw a bunch of money at trying to figure out how to do a webinar when I was learning webinar, and they're all $10,000. So everybody's got $1,000 to learn a webinar, right? And you sit, you learn, and by the third time, it took me 3 times of throwing the 10,000, I was like, you know what? This is another great session. And I just was like, I learned a lot about the structure, but I could have learned that in 20, 30 minutes. And if I would have just trusted my leadership and brought me to the table and led the way I've learned how to lead in leadership, I would have converted my 12%, like my webinar converts at 12%, which, by the way, I've been doing the same webinar for 2.5 years now. Exactly the same, never changed, and it still converts the same, and it's amazing.
And if you're listening right now, 12% is incredible. What's the average is like 5 or 6%, isn't it? It's or even like lower at times.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is. But that's the power of like walking. This is all leadership, like walking through the thought, well, people have already seen it. Well, they're going to want something new. Well, so what? Is the information still relevant? Yeah, it's really relevant. So I honestly should be doing it every week. I should go to different countries in my Facebook marketing. That's really what I should be doing. If I was really smart, I should like rotate through the countries. We're going to do that now.
Yeah, put it in the vision.
You seriously,
make it happen.
It's like, why make things more complicated? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I love that. Shanda, I love your energy. This is awesome. We're getting a lot of amazing words of wisdom and advice here. So I love talking business systems. I think it's really important to build a great system for your business. A lot of people keep creating the storefront or, the surface, but then they fail at some point, and usually they'll give up because they feel like there's too much competition in the market, or they just, lose their steam. And I believe a lot of the time it's because they don't have a good system in place. So, but let's say we have some young, aspiring entrepreneurs here that are ready to launch a business. Let's say it's an online business. What are let's say like 4 to 5 steps that you would say would be really important for people to consider?
Yeah.
When it comes to business systems.
Kind of a challenging conversation to ask me because of this. So here's how I typically answer that. You don't really have much of a problem if you have strong lead gen, because you can always figure out how to sell. The challenge is I'm a marketer. And so I'm kind of a mix between an entrepreneur and a marketer, and they're different. And why that's important to understand is that there's a reason why I have somebody next to me that is an integrator. There's a book called Rocket Fuel that I think is a great book for anybody. Yes. It's a great book because when I grew, it talks about a visionary and an integrator. I had a virtual assistant who was my integrator that brought me to my first million. I never had to think about anything operational. All I had to do was focus on 2 things, marketing and sales. And then once I figured out that and I started to get stretched, then I focused on 1 salesperson, not 2, because I had to develop my own leadership, and leadership is the key. So I had enough capacity, bandwidth in my leadership. Bandwidth is a leadership thing. So like, I don't remember the last time I was overwhelmed. I mean, it has to have been probably about a good 5 or 6 years. That's all leadership. So I built 1 salesperson. I sold with her. Then she took it over. Then she trained the next salesperson. Even though I was still in the mix, she trained it. Now I have a call team. So for me, the first thing I focused on was the front end and then the back end, so that the 2 dovetailed. So what's the sales and marketing, and then what's the 1 deliverable product that I can fulfill on and get like a reoccurring income from. And so I just rinsed and repeated that over and over and over again. Now, obviously I have a bigger company, but I don't do anything in customer service. I don't do anything in admin. I have no right to be in there. I actually, in my head, think that none of them do any work. But they do a ton of work because my brain doesn't think like that.
Yeah.
So the book Rocket Fuel is great because a visionary is going to think like, I'm just going to keep breaking the systems and selling more and selling more and selling more. And an integrator you need a strong integrator to run with you. And all that means is someone who can put it into action. So if I was to go back from the beginning, the very beginning like, I understand why people partner together, because they're partnering together because they grow faster, because you have a visionary and an integrator. Visionaries always think that they know what's right. They always think that they know best. And often their egos deceive them in thinking that they're the top dog. But the truth is that a visionary with an integrator, somebody that can go put in the systems, those two people coming together is nothing short than just magic. It's like, so that could be a project manager for some people, depending at the level. If you're just starting, it's a really good, like for me, it was a tech VA. I went on a website called hiremymom.com, and I typed in a savvy tech virtual assistant because I needed somebody that understood tech, right? And then that grew, and it grew to a project manager, and then that grew, and it grew to, a COO, and now it's growing to a president. That's what we were just talking about today. Is the company's ready for a president to support the COO, because I'm not the best support for it anymore. So I'm better if I'm just, as a visionary, I'm better if I'm leading the strategy for our clients, as far as like, what's the strategy of our programs? What direction are they getting better in? Not creating new inspired thoughts of, like, that's not good. How are we getting better at training the same thing deeper? Because if we go deeper, they're going to make more money, and we're leading them. So let's lead them deeper versus wide. And then content, and then speaking. So so I'm writing my job description for 2020. I just started doing this. And right now I've got these 3 areas: content creation, strategy for our clients in the company, and speaking. If it's not in one of those 3 things, I'm not doing it. So now we're going to start filling in the buckets. So like now I'll be able to have space to do more podcasts. I take very few podcasts. Like you'll never find me all over the platforms, because I focused on making money before I focused on celebrity standings. I think I heard one of the guys over at Digital Marketer, I don't know, I'm losing his name right now, but he literally said, do you want to be rich or do you want to be famous? I chose to be rich first. And now I'm focusing on building more of a celebrity brand. I hate the word celebrity, but I look at it as authority. Now I want to build authority. So if anybody asks me, like, how can I help you, Shanda? Help me build authority right now. Because
so you're focused on being great, not big. Great gets results. Big looks like you're making moves.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
Wow. Yes. I love that book. I love that you brought it up, Rocket Fuel. It's like a Bible for your business. It's pretty crazy.
It is.
I remember reading it a couple of years back, and it definitely shifted my whole perspective on how I looked at my business, how I managed my team. And, if you're listening right now, think of someone like Walt Disney. He had his brother, Roy Disney. And he said that Disney wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Roy. And you wouldn't really hear much about Roy. It was all about Walt Disney. But he's the guy that pulled Disney out of the gutter, basically. You got Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs couldn't have taken Apple to that level without like the nerdy integrated guy that did the systems. So
and they're both as valuable. It's just one was born with the talent to lead on the front. One was born to lead on the back. And they're leading different audiences. But this is what I mean by, like, leadership has to be the key. If you want to be at the top at anything, you have to become more like, what's the thing you don't want anybody to know about you? Like, I got up on a stage last year and told everybody that I'd done speed. And then I woke up one morning, I was so skinny, I was a double size 0. And I didn't think that my legs were going to take me to the kitchen to like shovel peanut butter in my mouth. I mean,
wow.
I never wanted to tell that story my entire life. I never sat with a speaker trainer to build that out, because that was not part of the story I wanted anybody to know about myself at all. But being a generous leader, there was a guy standing at a mic at my Zone event 2 years ago. And I was like, why are you doing this thing? Like, what's your stand? And I'm trying to pull a stand out of him. And he's like, well, when I was younger, I was sexually abused. I go, okay, so give me one moment. Like, what's a moment? And he couldn't go there. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make you go there in front of thousands of people. But I was like, that's the place you have to be able to go, because until you can go there, something else has your power. And then I walked up to the stage. And by the time I got back to the stage, I turned around and this story came out of me. And as I'm saying it, I'm just going, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm saying this right now. Like this audience is going to totally look at me differently. And now I'm like asked to speak on the church stage and tell my speed story. And I'm from the college kids. I told them last night, or not last night, a couple nights ago. And I'm like, somebody asked me even, do you think you could have taken out these parts of your story and still become you? And I said, yeah, I absolutely could. I wasted time when I was doing cocaine, when I was doing speed, even though it was a white collar thing and I was running nightclubs, I was wasting time. Like if I would have focused the way if I would have known what I knew today and focused my energy and my leadership in the right direction, I could have had a $500 million company at this point. Like based on results, I've only been at the game for not too long. I could have been making, and the authority I would have had at that point, the amount of money, like I give 10%. Do you know what I mean? I trust myself at the top because based on who I am standing here today, I have a wall of generous gives and not just like, you see what I'm saying, right? So it's like,
yeah.
who would I have been if I would have had the right leaders or mentors in my life at that point in time? And yeah, I get everything has a meaning, but I had a choice. And I didn't focus on my leadership. I focused on looking hot. I focused on being liked. I focused on all the superficial things, the nice wine, the 5-star restaurants, the Aston Martin boyfriends. And it was all about that. It was all about the show. And that's very much still going on in the world because I can tell you, I coach many platform people that have these huge platforms and they have no money. They have no back end or they can't keep their teams together. There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. The thing is that they're still trying to figure out that next funnel that they think is going to make them happy. And the truth is it's their leadership.
Oh, man. I love that you shared this. This is making me think about my business and the way that I show up. And I hope that if someone is listening to this right now and they're like, I've got some work to do it. Get to work on your leadership. Yeah, it is funny. We always think that it's so external. It's always a thing out there that's going to, take us to the next level. And yeah, there's strategies and everything else, but so many people are holding on to something back here. And it's not a matter of, what do I need to add? Maybe it's a question of what do you need to let go of?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, even at your zone event, like I see, you bring people up on stage and it's funny because I think a lot of people come in and they're probably like, yeah, I want to take my business to the next level. And next thing it's like, no, probably 80% of the conversations around mindset and having to let go and having to heal relationships with their parents or leaving their partner if it's not working or healing the relationship they're currently in to take that to the next level.
I have a woman right now who has an amazing marriage and her husband tethers her and he doesn't mean to tether her. He does not mean to tether her at all. But because of the way he deals with stress in his own leadership and she has a desire to speak on more stages, she did $1 million this year as she walked in, I think at 200,000 this year. She's like, she'll just hit 1 million this year. Mm-hmm. And I just met with her today and I put her plan together for next year. It's 2.3. And I said, this is still under the context of you're tethered. And my conversation is not to go against her husband. It's about leadership, right? It's about how do you lead your husband in a way that he feels safe, which is not really a conversation that most people have, but it's like, I've helped more women and men communicate with their spouses because at the end of the day, your spouse does not have the right to tether you, nor do they really want to. They just don't know any other way of doing it. It's kind of like having an emotional trigger when somebody says something, you react like this. It's no different. It just gets more complicated when we get into relationship, but it's also a massive amplifier. When we can get into a relationship and work, it's like you can work through your stuff quicker in a relationship because it brings it all up. Right. So it's kind of like your business is a great personal development tool. Relationships are a great amplifier. So there's, have you read the book Relentless?
No, I haven't read it yet.
Okay. Get the audio book Relentless.
Okay. Make sure I do.
And he is the coach to, he was the coach to Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all these guys. And so, although most of us never are going to become the best, and here's why. The amount of sacrifice to really be the best, I would say 9.5% of people are not willing to do that. And that's the real game. And you really got to know it. When you listen to that book, you'll get it. Because what these guys sacrifice to be at the level that they sacrifice to be at, I'm going to tell, there's no way I would do that. Right? Like, it's sacrificing family. It's sacrificing a lot. And, I don't know if you know Steve Weatherford, a friend of mine. It's like, when he was playing ball, it's like his whole family was revolved around him. He went away for 2 months in training camp. Everything he ate, drank, whatever, what time he got up. It's like, there's no depend on me for you guys. It's you guys take care of me. Because to play at this level, I can only think about one thing. And that's what I got to think about. But the book, so Tim, the author, is literally the coach to the top athletes in the world. And the way he coached them is the way he coaches you in this book. And it is eye-opening. I mean, you will become a lot better from listening to this book. But I talked to his team because I almost had them at Zone Event. And I'll close with this. Is they said, Sherry on his team, Sherry, I think it's Sherry or Shelly said, Shanda, Tim's thinking about taking just a handful of entrepreneurs. And she said, but here's the thing that Tim's really committed to. He will go into their house and he will meet, if they're married or they have a girlfriend, he wants to meet with them. He wants to meet with the closest family members, the friends, and everybody in his ecosystem or hers. And I said, why? And she said, because the entrepreneur will never play to the level they can until everything in their inner world is worked out.
Wow. Yeah, everything's touching everything.
Yeah, it's all leadership.
Yeah.
So how are you leading the conversations behind closed doors? Are you leading? Are you following? Are you triggering? What are you doing? You may think those are behind closed doors, but they're not. That's why the post isn't getting the engagement it needs to. That's why you're afraid to get on that stage. That's why, you haven't gotten the break that you wanted, because you can't hold it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. I remember it was about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I launched an online program. I made 6 figures in the space of 2 days. I'd never done that before, right? I think the most I made in 1 week was like $10,000. And that wasn't like a common occurrence. I was still building my business and still learning how to play the game. And I remember going down, I was living in Santa Monica in California. And I went down to 3rd Street Promenade and I just started buying shoes, jeans, t-shirts, like a watch, like sunglasses, just all the crap, right? And it's so funny because I don't have any of that stuff now. I'm trying to remember what it was and I don't have any of it. It's not here with me. But it was this thing of this letting go of the money because I didn't have the financial container to hold it. It was like I was making it ahead of my actual belief system.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, who you surround yourself with, so important. It forms our beliefs through influence by the people that we're around, the conversations we have. We don't really step in and have as much control as we actually think we do, and we're not as conscious as we actually think that we are, which is kind of sad. But it's really about us having intention and going, all right, what am I set out here to do, and how am I going to play this game? Not get caught in the game, but how am I going to play this game in order to fulfill my vision, which I believe circles back around to this conversation around leadership. Having a vision for your future, because your vision disciplines you. It chooses your friends for you. It teaches you what to say yes to and what to say no to. Shanda, what's your vision? If you could share it in a nutshell, what's your vision?
Well, it feels crazy saying it. I say it internally in our company. But I even had somebody say to me the other day that they were tired of hearing influencers say that they want to grow $1 billion company. And I'm like, I don't consider myself an influencer. I'm not overly big on any of the platforms. I don't spend my time on that. But the person that I really look up to is Sarah Blakely. and what she's done at Spanx. And I love who she is as a mother. I love who she is as a wife. I love who she is as a role model in the world. I love the work she's doing. And I just really relate to her. And so she actually gave me permission when I read about her story in Forbes years ago and I didn't know who she was. She gave me permission to really stand up and play as a woman. So I've never wanted to be a digital marketer. I've never related to myself in that space. Yes, I do market on the internet, but I have a vision to create $1 billion company and to show people that you don't have to work 7 days a week to do it. Like I take off 5.5 months a year. Now I don't know if I'll be able to do that, taking off 5.5 months a year. But what I do know is that my legacy will be, as I grow HeartCore, it will be the hub, and we will spin off other companies that my friends or employees inside of HeartCore will own, and we will sell them in 3 to 5 years. And we're already doing that right now with the company. We have our first one that we're doing. So my vision was to take people up with me that have helped me get there, if that makes sense. And when I along the way to the top, the vision along the way to the top is for the authority. It's for the authority. And here's what I know for sure, Joel. There's no way I'm doing it with my smarts. There's no way. And it's not even about team, even though that's a huge part of it. It's about my relationship with God. Like, I feel very broken in so many ways. And I feel like the Holy Spirit leads through me. And when we move audiences and people move, and I see psychics go and baptize themselves, and I see people that are not feeling judged by me because they're spiritual, not religious, and I'm able to move that movement through people so that they don't feel alone, they don't feel lost, and that through building businesses is just the avenue that I'm teaching in, but really it's all ministry work. And so my vision is to bring that to the top without having to be Joel Osteen or Carl Lentz at Hillsong or any of these people. Like, my vision is not to run a church, but my vision is to run a movement like that is completely, edified to the Holy Spirit. Like, to be like, listen, like, I don't know how people do it without faith. I mean, it must be very lonely, Like,
I feel that.
I don't, it's like, I'll ask for marketing plans and they're in scripture, and that's not just praying. That's not just that's just a one-way relationship. A lot of times it's not just like, I'm not asking the Lord for anything most of the time. Except for to change me or to make me more courageous or to be able to heighten my listening so I can hear him. Like, that's what I pray for. I don't pray for another $1 million. I don't even pray for $1 billion. I don't pray for any of that. But I have a knowing. I had a knowing, and I don't know if my knowing will be wrong, but I had a knowing that I was supposed to be rich. And we've hit that platform. And so now and I've never needed any of it. I was happy in my 2-bedroom apartment. I was happy when I worked out of a closet. I have been happy in all those places, but that's not what God had in store for me. He had bigger stages, bigger messages, and all the way along, it's like I've had to redefine myself and go, really? I don't want to get on this stage with Les Brown and Bob Proctor and Lisa Nichols, who I was thinking about hiring because I felt like I needed to get more coaching around speaking. I don't want to jump on a stage with them and now go into syndicated TV next week. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, and then so I'm standing there going, okay, Lord, I don't have a keynote presentation. Why are you putting me through this? Why do I have to go do this? But I'm just saying yes, and I'm going. I have there's nothing in me that's like, oh my God, we're going to make more money. Oh, we got to figure out the website so that we capture all the leads. It's no. And it's been like this, Joel, for the last 3 years since I started reading scripture every single day.
Yeah.
And I don't feel alone anymore. I don't feel lost. I don't feel like I got to be anything. In fact, the more broken things are, it seems to work for me. It's easier for me to just admit that than to pretend like I need to be something else. So that's just what's working for me right now. But the vision is that the Lord brings me to this place of knowing. I don't even know what it looks like. I just know it's $1 billion company, and that I can say yes in the process, and that the people who are builders around me, we spin off companies and we make a lot of wealth for them and empower their voices.
Wow. Wow. That's so powerful. I mean, I can attest to that too. You know, I've had an experience. Well, I grew up in the faith, and then I strayed from the faith, and I came back to the faith a few years ago. And it's such a shift because like I used to just put so much of my worth in the things around me all the time. And then when I realized that like, I don't need to get the love from anybody else, that I've already got it from my creator. Mm-hmm. Like it just fueled me with so much passion and drive to just fully step in and go like, wait, I'm on a mission here. Like, what's my mission now? I'm not just dancing with my DNA. I didn't just pop out of nowhere and then I'm, you know, like I'm going to die and that's it. Like there's more to life than this. And I think to know that you're guided, that there's someone that actually really like your creator loves and cares about you and cares about your business and cares about your friendships and cares about your family. Like to me, it's an amazing feeling to wake up with that and to go to sleep with that at night. And it does baffle my mind. And I have to reconnect with like, what was it like when I was out of it and not making efforts and also just not in relationship with God. And it feels empty. It's like, what are you looking forward to? Like what's there? And I often think to myself, how much am I like selling myself out now that at the end of my life, I'm going to be like, oh man, I wish I didn't do that. Like, I wish I really stepped in more. And, you know, one day when, you know, across the great divide, I'll be standing there before him. And the one thing I fear is him saying, Joel, I gave you this much with his arms out, but you only did this with just his little two fingers together.
So amazing about you saying that is so many people think that fear piece is the reason why they don't want to be in the religion. It's like, listen, even little kids fear their parents if they don't, that's why they listen. Do you know what I mean? Like we fear, like there's like fear can be a good thing because it could spur you, right? Like it's like, it can be a good thing, but it's like, like
it holds you to a higher potential. That's what it is. Like, that's what I know. I fear. It's not like, oh, he's going to be angry at me. I don't think like that. I just think he's giving me a massive potential and I'm not living up to it. And that's what a shame that I don't get to experience that and others don't get to feel it.
But imagine doing more talks on that. You know what I mean? And really showing the places that we are not doing it in, you know, and giving people permission. Like, I've been able to create this so far and I'm not doing this still. Like, you know, it's just, and showing like I'm really practicing the vulnerability around that, like showing like what that feels like, you know, so that it's really real. I mean, that empathy is deep for ourselves and others. But I want to circle around even that, to pull that $1 billion conversation around for a second. Like, God might only be using that knowing right now for me to get me to show up. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, he might take that right out of the space and it doesn't matter. But the point is like exactly what you just said. My biggest fear is dying and wasting another day. Yeah. Like, that sucks to me.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, I mean, you know it in like micro experiences of like let's say just experiencing one day and then at the end of the day knowing you didn't do anything. Like that feels crap. Imagine that times 80, 90, 100, 120, however long you're going to live and I'm going to live years. That's heavy. That's really heavy.
It is. It is. And then and I think the only time that often really comes true is when someone gets sick. Like I just met this young man for the college students, wants to be an entrepreneur in an entrepreneur program. And he just started with epileptic seizures. And there's like, he said, it's kind of like, let's call it like cells that are eating his good brain cells, and they're eating it faster and faster and faster. And so the seizures are getting more and more and more. And he's having to be on drugs to even manage them. And he's going in for brain surgery in 2 months. And he said, what advice would you give me when I don't know in 2 months? Like, how do I use these 2 months? He goes, because I don't know, because brain surgery is brain surgery. It's not like it's very dangerous. He goes, I don't know if I will be normal after that. He's like, I mean, he's a college student. And I'm saying like a baby college student, filled with energy and ambition. And like, he's like, I'll intern for you. I'll do anything. And I was like, just keep telling your story. Like every day, get online and tell your story and encourage people to do something with the day. Like, what a great use of your time. You know what I mean? Encourage yourself. Hold yourself accountable by telling people what you're going to do today.
Yeah. Sharing your story and connecting with God each day. Because, that's the next step for him at some point, right? To have that to look forward to.
He's going to Mariners Church. He's deep in his faith.
Yeah. And like, even because it's funny, like, because I mention God and Christ on my social media and I get all sorts of comments and that's totally fine. I don't have even a negative connotation or anything around religion or anything, because it's my relationship with God. And it's really interesting when I do have, people that come in and want to debate, and we go into it and we dive into the theology and everything else. And then we end up like meeting at a point of like, let's just like remove religion from it. And let's just look at like, you're here for a reason. Let's look at this. Like, your life has purpose and meaning. Like, that in itself is so deep and so freaking wide. It's like, absorb that, go with that. And I think that's really what it is when that young boy was saying to you, like, what can I do? Like, he wants to be around the energy that you're exuding, because I really believe we want to be alive. We want to feel alive here in this human experience. And you look at, like, we all have a certain amount of time that we have. And I believe time is just a calibration of change. The eternal word abides forever, right? So like within that, it's like we get to experience what we have free will. So we get to choose what we experience in that time. And I think it's sad when you see like some people that are like, oh my gosh, I'm near the end of my life and now I want to do these things. Don't be that person. Step in every day anyway and make it happen.
I hear that is very common. I'm actually going to take an evangelist course because I want to put structure around me going even deeper.
Yeah, that's going to be so powerful, and I can't wait to see you do that.
It's where I'm looking for the class right now. Signed up before the end of the year.
Love it. Shanda, this has been such an amazing conversation. I'm so excited to get this episode out, and I really appreciate you showing up and sharing your words of wisdom with us. Where can we find you online?
Instagram's probably the best place to find me right now because I'm still answering my DMs on there. So Shanda Sumpter on Instagram is definitely the best place to have access to me at this point.
Yes, and if you're listening to this right now, check out her IGTV videos. They're amazing. They go all in on really must-hear topics. I love the topics that you've chosen. A lot of people don't talk about these things. You've gone in on some really awesome topics. So make sure you check it out. Make sure you follow Shanda. Shoot her a message, go to her zone event, jump into her programs, do whatever you need to do to learn the good stuff from Shanda. Shanda, at the end of every interview, we always end with this last question. And this question is, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your parting advice, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
That is so tough.
That's what Tony Robbins said.
Really? That's cool that you interviewed him. I would probably still be giving. I would say God is real. And I would say one of the doorways to access him would be through generosity. And so just give more. Everything works out if you keep giving more. I really think it's the secret to life. It's the secret to everything working.